Hi there, good to meet you. My name is Stephanie, and it's nice to either meet you or welcome you back to practicing with me. Today we'll just do a nice simple flow, keeping everything down to the basics. So whether or not you're new to yoga or you've practiced a little bit but just want to slow it down or maybe refocus on your alignment, this would be a really nice practice for you. Um, we'll begin, of course, in a seated position. And keep in mind that that means different things for different people. So in general, you want to sit with as straight of a spine as is possible. You'll note that if you take a seat, or if you just take a seat down on the ground and just kind of sit as you normally would, you can notice that the back tends to round a little bit. So in order to kind of take that round out of the back or make it easier to keep a nice straight spine, it's nice and easy to slide that extra skin or your butt cheeks away from your sit bones. So you might lift and just pull the skin up and away. Everyone has it, no matter how much or how little, and pull that skin away. And then that allows your sit bones to root into the ground. So you can feel here, you feel the sit bones in the ground, and you notice that with ease, I'm already sitting up a bit straighter. It's much easier to maintain a straight spine that way. Also, if you have any really tight hamstrings or low back pain, or if you're like me and your legs or feet fall asleep very easily, it's nice to also place a pillow or blanket or something underneath the bottom here, and that also elevates your hips over your knees. That makes the spine remain a bit straighter as well. So as you're sitting with that straight spine, also, one more thing is if it's uncomfortable for you to cross the legs, feel free to extend your legs out and just sit as straight as you can with that spine, keeping the legs in front of you if you have a lot of knee pain, for example. So the second thing to note is that in yoga practice, you want to make sure that the breath is really nice and even, and that you're paying a lot of attention to the breath. It's sometimes really easy to want to just get into the practice and get moving and get flowing. Even listening to me talk right now might be a little bit stressful if you're really looking to move, but you want to make sure that you're definitely paying attention to the breath. So you'll make sure that with this tall spine, that you're inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the nose. And you're doing that at the most even pace possible. Those of you who practice more regularly might sometimes extend your exhales a bit, but in general, when you're moving and flowing, you want to try to keep the breath nice and even. You'll also want on the inhale, your belly to rise or expand so it fills with air. And on your exhale, the belly contracts back to the spine. So you're inhaling to lift or rise the belly, and exhaling to contract in and out through the nose. So you'll also, one more thing you can do to add a little bit more attention to the breath, or to also create a deeper breath, is to create an ujjayi breath. It's called ujjayi, or where you kind of slide your tongue down and back a little bit towards the back of your throat, as if you're constricting the back of your throat a little. And on your exhale, you'll do that constriction or pull the tongue down and back before you exhale, so that when you do exhale, you have this sort of nice control over the breath slowly as it leaves your body. That little restriction also generates a bit of extra heat in between your pelvis or your root lock, where your energy sort of begins, if you will. Not that it begins exactly there, but then you're also constricting the throat and blocking the energy here. So when you're active in practicing, your root lock is engaged or your pelvic muscles are activated. And when you're breathing, your throat lock here, that constriction is also engaged. So you're generating a bit of extra heat in between those areas, which is also what helps to detox or, create some extra sweat, extra warmth throughout your practice. So you can forget everything I said if that was confusing and you don't want to constrict your throat or find that extra warmth, or if that is in your practice, by all means. So you're sitting nice and tall. You're allowing the eyes to maybe close if that's comfortable for you. Otherwise, you can find a focal point in the ground. You're taking the air in through the nose, rising the belly on inhale. And on exhale, belly is contracting the spine and air releases. Good place to start is about 4 counts or so. Breathing in for 4 counts and out for 4 counts. We'll take a few even breaths or equal part breaths. Perfect. So from here, you can just open the eyes, bring both palms to heart center, and then from here, just pull the shoulders up to the ears and exhale them around, down, and back behind you. So you might open up the chest, expand the chest a little bit. You can also press into both palms to sort of bring the shoulder blades together behind your back. Now with that nice tall spine, you're going to release your right hand to the ground. You might keep a little bend to the right arm. You can plant the fingertips or the palm on the ground, depending on your length and flexibility. And on your inhale, you'll lift the left arm overhead. So if you have any issues with your neck, I recommend just looking ahead. If it's comfortable, you can gaze down or also up at that arm. One thing you want to focus on is keeping that left hip grounded into the ground and really reaching that left arm away, finding a lot of length on the left side of body. Take about 2 more breaths here. As you exhale, release that left hand to the ground, and then planting left fingertips or left palm, maybe a little bend to the left arm. You'll keep the right sit bone or hip rooted and inhale, right arm overhead. Again, issues with neck, maybe the gaze stays ahead. Otherwise, you can look down or up. So in general, you want to always be lengthening on the inhale or lifting up that right arm. And exhale, you might extend it a little further over to your opposite side. About 2 more breaths. Also want to make sure you're not rounding forward, that you're keeping the chest open to the ceiling. And on the exhale, release the right hand to the ground. From here, you'll send both arms up on inhale, gazing up, lifting the upper body out of the hips. And you'll exhale, turning over to your right. You're going to plant that right arm behind your back, in the center of your back, releasing left arm to the right knee for a more relaxing twist, or the left knee for a deeper twist. You're lifting up on inhale through top or crown of the head is this top and center, and you're exhaling to twist or rotate the upper body towards your right. You're making sure that the collarbones are nice and wide still. The spine is tall and the gaze looks over the right or towards the right shoulder. And focus on the breath, taking 3 breaths here, or 3 more. On the last exhale, you'll unwind back to the center. So keep it even, of course. You'll send both arms up on the inhale, lifting the upper body, and exhale, you'll rotate over to the left. Left hand plants right behind the center of the back. Also, you don't want it to be too far out. You want to pull it up nice and close towards the bottom. That will support a taller spine. Again, you're lengthening, lifting up on inhale, and exhaling to turn or twist to the left. Hands to either knee, depending on how deep your twist remains. Nice wide collarbones. And you're always lengthening up on the inhale and exhaling to rotate. You can hold in one place, or if you're comfortable on your next exhale, you can rotate a bit further. About 3 more breaths. On your exhale, you'll unwind back to the center. Now, open up those feet or uncross those legs, or if they were extended out in front of you, you'll go ahead and come all the way over onto or into a tabletop position. So on your mat or your space, you'll come into all fours, making a nice tabletop, planting the knees right underneath the hips and the wrists right underneath the shoulders. So you might see teachers do it different ways. You can curl the toes under or also leave the tops of feet touched to the ground. Most important, I prefer tops of feet to the ground, but whatever makes you most comfortable. Most importantly is that, you can't see with my shirt sagging down, you want to make sure the belly's not dipping down here, that you're keeping the back nice and parallel to the ground. So then the next thing that you'd want to do is allow the wrist to be planted right under the shoulders, and you might even lift the fingertips and then press them back down into the ground. So almost slightly gripping with the fingertips as well, so that the fingertips are absorbing some of the pressure from the, so all the pressure's on the wrist. Then another thing you'll do once you make sure that the belly is nice and parallel to the ground is sort of lift those shoulders up and roll them like kind of down and back. So the shoulders come down and back, or shoulder blades come back to the spine. That allows a greater expanse in the chest and might also allow some more space for air. So on the inhale, your belly will start to come down. You're really lifting the tailbone up nice and high or bottom high, and the head, if that's comfortable for neck, and opening the chest here. As you exhale, you'll round the back, curving like a cat stretches, drawing the chin towards the chest, not so much or not intensely, just kind of gazing down, and then you'll inhale back up, lifting the tailbone and head, expanding the chest. Exhaling, you'll round the back. So as you keep moving here, feel free to move at your own pace, inhaling up and exhaling to round. Excuse me. You really want to make sure that your breath is what's leading the movement, that you're not allowing the breath to sort of, or the body to move before the breath. You're really allowing the breath to dictate when you inhale and when you exhale. So try just 2 more cat-cows. Inhaling up, head and hips rise, and exhale to round the back. 1 more. Cow tilt, inhale to lift, and exhale round. Perfect. We'll come back to that neutral tabletop position. And you're just going to go ahead and make your way slowly, nice and slow, up to a standing position. So you're just going to step with both feet, coming towards the top of your mat or space, and keeping a nice, healthy bend to the knees. It will just allow the upper body to sort of fold or hang or relax. So you're keeping that little bend to the knees to protect the low back, and your legs aren't quite or haven't been warmed up yet. Here you see that I can touch the ground with my fingertips or my palms. Maybe you just rest more comfortably with hands on your shins. Or maybe you're even hanging way up here. Wherever you are, find the place of best comfort and take a few sways side to side, allowing the head and neck to be relaxed. And then once you return back to the center, you're just going to slowly rise up to standing. So the vertebrae are going to stack one on top of the other as you slowly lift up. There's no rush here. Also helps to keep the chin sort of tucked until you eventually come all the way to standing. And only then will you lift your gaze. That helps a little bit with dizziness or to not feel dizziness. So once you're standing, you'll step towards the top of your mat. And kind of like you did with your palms or wrists earlier, you'll root through the heels, lifting the feet, maybe toes, and kind of even spreading the toes out, creating a larger area, a surface area for the feet to cover. Then you'll make sure the knees are just slightly bent, or there's a little bit of give, that you're not erect straight here. And I prefer to keep my feet separate a little bit, kind of hips distance apart, because that creates the greatest balance. So here you're going to again pull the shoulders up to the ears, and exhale, bring the shoulder blades around, down, and back. So the shoulder blades come in towards the spine. Knees are somewhat relaxed, the spine is nice and tall, just gazing ahead, taking a breath in and out. And then you'll bring both palms to heart center. So you'll keep that little tiny bend to the knees. You'll inhale, lifting both arms and gaze overhead. And exhale, bend through the hips. Keep the tiny bend to the knees as you fold forward toward the ground. Again, you can bring the fingertips to the ground or hands, or just kind of relax wherever's comfortable. Now we're just going to slowly rise back up on the inhale, nice and slow, stacking the vertebra. Bringing the arms up slowly as you come all the way standing. You'll look up, bring the palms together, and exhale, send palms to heart. Again, you'll lift up on the inhale, lifting arms and gaze. And exhale, bend forward to fold, keeping a small bend to the knees, bending from the hips, relaxing head and neck. Inhale, slowly rise back up to standing. Root through the heels as you lift the arms and gaze. And then exhale, we'll send palms to heart center. Perfect. So we'll step towards the top of the mat and come into a warrior position. So you're going to keep the right foot at the top of the mat and step the left foot back about 3 or 4 feet, maybe 5, enough so that you feel balanced still. You're going to keep the right knee bent right over the ankle, and the back foot is at about a 45-degree angle, or your left foot is pointing towards the top left corner of your mat. Here you'll notice that the hips start to face that top left corner of the mat. Instead, you want the hips to face forward. So you'll take your right hand and just press the right hip back a little bit, noticing that the hips turn forward. If you feel really uncomfortable in your back leg, it's okay to kind of turn the foot a little bit more forward, or almost even very slightly lift the back heel. You want to make sure that you are grounding through the outside of both feet and that the hips can stay facing forward as much as is comfortable here without compromising the balance. So earlier I mentioned that root lock, your pelvic muscles. Like when you have to pee, you're holding the muscles, you're contracting the muscles to hold the pee in. So you're going to contract those muscles in the pelvic region, pulling the muscles together and lifting them. Pull the belly in and up, and then you'll keep your focus forward as you keep either your hands here on the front leg, or you can slowly bring them all the way up towards the ceiling. Or if it's best to compromise, is to keep the hands at heart center. So you're contracting the pelvic muscles, the belly into the spine, keeping the gaze ahead and arms wherever's comfortable. If your arms are lifted up to the ceiling, make sure your shoulders aren't pulling up to the ears real tight. Just keep them kind of relaxed. You should be feeling warmth generating in the body or in the legs. You're making sure as you look down that that front knee is over the ankle. As you look down, you should be able to see your first big toe or two or so. And if you have a little bit harder time balancing, looking down at the ground is the best place. Once you release, you'll just slowly drop the arms and take a pulse or two forward, just stepping back to the top of the mat and making just a few wiggles with the legs, just bringing some circulation back into the legs. And then when you're comfortable, you'll switch sides, keeping the left foot planted at the top, stepping the right foot back about a couple of feet or so, however much is comfortable for your balance. And you're keeping the left foot facing forward, knee over the ankle, right toes face that top right corner of the mat. This time the left hand will come in front of the hip and just push back a little so the hips face forward. You're looking for a stretch in the front of your hip. Again, you might sort of angle or adjust that back foot to face forward. Contracting the root lock or pelvic muscles, pulling them in and up, belly in and up, lifting through crown of head, hands to your legs, to the heart, or to the ceiling. Shoulders relaxed. And start to notice that even breath again. About 3 or 4 breaths. As you exhale, you'll just release the arms again. Take a few pulses or a few steps towards the top of your mat or space. And a few wiggles to the legs, just to bring back some circulation. So now we'll take a sun salutation that you'll commonly see in classes, and we'll just work it nice and slow. So both feet root into the ground or the mat, toes spread wide, stance is nice and tall, both arms inhale overhead, looking up. On your exhale, you're bending from the hips, same as before, keeping a slight bend to the knees as you fold forward. This time your hands are going to come to the shins. You're going to press into the shins as you lift the chest or upper body halfway, creating a nice flat back, looking ahead. On your exhale, you're going to plant your hands towards the ground, bend the knees however much you need in order to step back. You can take it nice and slow, and we'll come first to a sort of tabletop-like position, dropping the knees to the ground. So if your knees come to the ground, we'll untuck the toes, making sure tops of feet are to the ground. You do want to make sure that the body's at about a 45-degree angle here. So the body is nice and long, or belly, and back. The shoulders are over the wrists. And this is a sort of modified plank position. You can remain here, or if it's comfortable for you, you can curl the toes under and lift the knees and butt so you're in a full plank position. So either stepping back to the full plank or dropping down to the knees, keeping the toes untucked. You're going to keep the elbows nice and close to the body, imagining that you have two tennis balls kind of in between your armpits, and you want to hold those tennis balls in place as you slowly exhale to lower down, really slowly. On your inhale, you'll press back into the hands, roll the shoulders up and back as you lift the chest, pushing up just a bit. And then on your exhale, you're going to round the back, curl the toes under, and press into the hands as you lift the tailbone nice and high to a downward facing dog position. So you'll notice once I curled my toes under and lifted the tailbone that I stepped forward a little bit. You want to make sure that you're in a nice, comfortable place so your body's in a V-like shape. The tailbone is nice and high, and the knees can stay nice and bent here. What's most important is that the hips travel away from the hands. You'll notice that as I press the hips back away from the hands, that my arms and back are in the same sort of line. So my knees can stay bent, or my legs can straighten more if you have more flexibility. But either way, you'll notice that the arms stay in the same line as the spine. That is what is most important. And the hands will stay nice and even, or have an even pressure through both hands. The head can relax between the arms. And this takes some adjusting, some getting used to, building more strength in the forearms and wrists to support your weight. On your exhale, we'll drop down to both knees. We're going to untuck the toes. And I'm just going to show you one more option that you might see in class. So when you would bring the hands down and you would step back into your plank, as I mentioned, our plank position, you would lower down to both knees. Or you can, from your high plank position with the toes curled under, keep those elbows just nice and close, just as before. You'll slowly exhale, lowering down to the ground without touching. You'll flip the tops of feet to the ground, glide along as you press up and lift on inhale. And then on exhale, you'll curl the toes under and press back to downward facing dog. That is an alternate option for those of you who have that extra strength built and are ready. So from either place, or whichever down dog you're in right now, you're just going to exhale and bend the knees. Take some steps to walk forward towards the top of your mat or space. Bring the hands back to the shins. Inhale and lift, look up. Exhale as you fold. Inhale, small bend to the knees as you rise up to standing. Lift the arms and gaze. Exhale, palms come to heart. So we'll try one more, just a little bit faster. Rooting through the heels, arms lift up on inhale. Exhale, bend to fold forward, bending from the hips. Hands come to shins. You'll press into shins, lift halfway on inhale. Exhale, plant the hands, step back to a full plank or drop down to the knees. Body's in a 45-degree angle. Keep the elbows close as you exhale down toward the ground or belly. Inhale, lift up on inhale, little cobra, chest expands. And exhale, curl the toes under and send the body back, hips back, tailbone high towards downward dog. Knees can stay bent, feet are about hips distance apart. You'll press the hips away from hands and draw the belly in and up towards the tailbone. Take 2 or 3 breaths. On your exhale, bend the knees and look ahead. And again, just travel however you need towards the top of the mat. There's never any rush. Bring the hands to shins. Inhale halfway, look ahead, flatten the back. Exhale as you fold. Inhale, little bend to the knees, slowly rise up to standing. And exhale, send palms to heart center. Perfect. We're going to try one more standing posture called tree pose. That's also very common and really nice to increase balance. So you'll begin by rooting down through your right foot and heel, bending the right leg a little bit. And then you will bring the left foot towards the right ankle or over the right ankle. Or if you feel really, really balanced already, you can lift that foot off the ground up to the shin. And those of you who practice regularly can also lift that foot up to the thigh. But always start here at the ankle. When you do bring the foot to the ankle, you'll notice the body tends to shift a little. You really want to make sure that the hips are centered over the feet, or the right hip is over the right foot. Keep a small bend to the right knee. You'll open here this left knee or leg. So you really have an opening here. You're going to pull in the root lock, pelvic muscles in and up, belly in and up, lift through the crown of head. And then when you're ready, you'll bring your hands to your heart, or you can keep hands at your hips, or sometimes it helps to keep arms out, wherever you feel the most balanced. Engaging all of those muscles, you can, if you feel comfortable, raise the foot up to the shin. You want to make sure that the foot never presses into the knee or kneecap. It's always below or above the knee. And if you're here with your hands at your heart, no matter where your foot is, you'll make sure that left leg stays open, and you can slowly try to lift your hands up on inhale. Again, shoulders are relaxed. And just very slowly you'll release arms back down, the leg back down, give the right leg a nice little wiggle. You can even just sort of roll that leg or hip a few times, side to side. And then we'll switch sides, rooting into the left foot, a little bend to the left knee. Bring that right foot to the left ankle. Again, you're going to make sure everything lifts in and up. You're hugging all the muscles into the midline or the center, and then lifting. Again, you're keeping the left hip over the left knee. Don't let it sway out to the side too much. Slowly finding your balance. Taking your time. So the slower you move, the more balanced you'll remain. Hands at the hips, hands in prayer or at the heart, or you can lift the arms, keeping shoulders relaxed. Just as before, the balance will stay best if your gaze remains at the ground in one place. And if you fall, you can always just get back up and try again. Every day is different. When you exhale, slowly release the arms, release the legs, give the left leg a nice little wiggle. Again, bringing it forward or back a little. And then we'll come back towards the top of the mat. So we'll try one more stretch here. That's really nice to stretch out the legs before we come seated. So you'll take a nice wide or large step back. I changed my mind actually. Let's do one little goddess clap before we take a stretch. So once you take that nice large step back, feet are nice and parallel to each other and they're wider than the hips distance apart. You're going to turn the heels in and the toes out. So heels are going to come in towards the center of your body and toes are going to come out to the sides. So if your stance is too wide, you might feel imbalanced. You can bring the stance a little closer together. You want to make sure wherever your stance is that the knees are over the ankles. And the more that your feet turn out, the less balanced you'll be. So if you want to be more balanced, you'll turn the toes forward more rather than out to the sides. Here you'll just take a few kind of sway side to side to warm up the joints in the hip. And then once you're comfortable or maybe slightly uncomfortable, you're feeling some burn or warmth in the legs, you're going to kind of sit into place here. So you should obviously have a really nice deep stretch in the inner thigh. The quads are working hard, muscles are nice and warm, maybe even shaking a little bit. That's totally okay, just working hard. You can keep the hands to the legs, or you can bring the palms into prayer, or you can make it more difficult and open the arms to the sides. Whichever one of those places you stay in, you're still going to be focusing on the breath. I know the legs are feeling warm, just try and focus on the air entering through the nose, the belly rises. And then exhale, the air releases, belly contracts to spine. Take 2 more breaths. Inhaling. One more breath. Perfect. On your next inhale, just straighten the legs, turn those feet back so they're nice and parallel to each other. And now you can just bring the hands to the hips. If you have really tight hamstrings or not as great flexibility, keep a tiny little bend to the knees. Hands from the hips, you'll just bend on the exhale and fold forward. Here you might allow the hands to come to the ground. So there's various options here. Your hands might touch the ground. Your fingertips might touch the ground. Or you might say, Stephanie, that's crazy. I'm nowhere near the ground. You might just keep a little bend to the knees. Or you might bring the feet in a little bit closer towards each other and you might hang here. Also, if you have a pillow, a blanket, block, a book, you can always allow your hand or body to rest on that. The most important thing is that you're supported wherever you are and that you're leaning forward. So when you come down, the tendency is to kind of rock into the bottom or back. You want to lean forward here, bringing the bottom forward so you're opening the backs of the legs. So your weight comes towards your toes a little bit more than the heels. And many of you who might be extra flexible might be able to come all the way down to the forearms, or your head might even reach the ground. You're just remaining in any place that's easiest for you. And when I say easiest, I mean best for you or most comfortable, because you do want to feel a stretch and a little bit of work or a little bit of slight resistance, but you never want to feel any pain or extreme discomfort. 2 more breaths. And when you come back up on the inhale, you're just going to heel toe the feet closer in towards each other until they come closer to the center. And then you're just going to find a nice slow rise again, keeping a little bend in the knees, slowly coming back to standing on the inhale. So you just give the legs a tiny little wiggle. And then we'll simply step back down to your tabletop position, coming down to all fours, knees underneath the hips, wrists underneath the shoulders. We'll take a few cat-cows. Again, you can bring tops of feet to the ground. Press into all 10 fingertips. As you inhale, you'll guide the head and hips up. Exhale to round the back, and you're really trying to press, kind of imagining there was a plate or something, or a cup sitting in the back and the upper back in your spine. You're really pressing up and trying to lift that cup as high as you can, opening the space between your shoulder blades. On the inhale, you'll look up. Obviously, you could be moving faster than I. On your exhale, round. Take a few more at your own pace. and the next time you inhale, you'll come back to the center, and you'll just cross the legs or ankles behind, and you'll find yourself in a seated position. So as we come back into our seat, we will just kind of bring the feet in towards each other, and the soles of feet here are going to touch or meet. You can keep the feet nice and far away from you, or you can grab a hold of the feet and pull them nice and close to the groin. So again, this depends on your own comfort and how much compression your knees can handle. You will make sure that skin slides up and back again away from the sit bones, so that helps to maintain a nice tall spine. It also changes the tilt of your pelvis as well. So grabbing hold of the feet, keeping them out a little bit or pulling them close into you. You want them as close as you can comfortably. You'll pull the feet towards the groin, lift on the inhale, and then exhale, and you'll slowly, if it's accessible, bend to fold forward. So you'll notice as you start to bend, you'll find an increased stretch in the inner thigh and hip here. You're just going to stop wherever you feel about 70–80% of your maximum capacity. You might notice that your elbows are kind of somewhere near your shins or thighs. If they connect comfortably or can touch, you can very gently on an exhale press down on the legs or shins, just very gently for a slightly deeper stretch. So you're inhaling full breath, and you're exhaling for a stretch. It's totally fine for the back to be a little rounded here. You can even kind of relax the head or neck. You're continuing to pull the feet into the groin, and exhale, relax head and neck. Take 2 or 3 or 4 breaths. On your next inhale, you'll lift back up to the center, and then you'll extend the feet out in front of you, and we'll simply allow those feet to be just connected to the ground, or legs connected to the ground, sorry. Give the legs a nice little wiggle, and then we're just going to come down onto the back. So as you lie down carefully onto the back, make sure that the back is nice and flat, connected to the ground. And then you're going to extend the left leg out to the end of the mat or space. So left leg's connected to the ground. And you're going to bring the right knee into the chest. You can grab the hands, pull the thigh, or wrap around the knee, wherever you reach at. And you'll, on your exhale, pull the right knee into the chest. Take a few breaths here. You can even close your eyes if you like. And then you're just going to make a few circles with that leg or with that knee. Just a few circles, right and left, or in each direction. If it feels good, you can even extend the leg out, just making a few circles for the hip. And then from there, you'll bend that right knee again, and then allow the arms to come out to a T, or to your sides. And allow that right knee or right leg to just cross over into a twist here. So the right shoulder might pop up off the ground. It's no problem. Just allow the arms to relax. Allow that leg to cross the body, either knee bent, or you can even straighten the leg. And you're allowing the gaze to turn the opposite direction of your leg. So gaze is to the right, and right leg is to the left. Just taking a few breaths, allowing gravity to assist in your twist. Not forcing anything. As you slowly unwind, you'll bring the leg back over towards the center, coming back onto the back. You'll just relax the head to the ground, pull both knees in towards the chest, connecting the hands under the thighs or the knees or shins, wherever you reach. And you'll just slowly rock side to side, kind of massaging the low back here. And then we'll extend the right leg out nice and straight. And then you'll pull that left knee into the chest on exhale. Maybe closing the eyes, taking a few long breaths. And then you can again release the volume from your hands, make a few circles forward and backward with your knee, or extending the leg straight, warming up the hip just a bit more. And then you'll bring that knee back toward the chest and allow the left leg or knee to cross over to the right side. Arms relaxed to a T, and the gaze turns to the left here. Again, then left knee that's across the body can be, left leg, can be knee bent or leg straight. Might close the eyes and just you're relaxing wherever your body lands. No force. And as you slowly come back up to the stomach, you'll bring the knee skin back into the chest. Wrap the hands around the shins or legs or wherever you reach. Make a few rocks side to side. And then you'll just relax or release the feet to the ground. Here you're allowing the feet to relax, the whole body to relax, the muscles to remain nice and loose. You might take a deep breath in through the nose. And exhale air throughout the mouth. And just letting go of any control over the breathing, over the body. Allowing yourself to just be for a few moments in quiet. Just noting how the body feels. Noticing if there's any areas of tension, you can just imagine letting go a little bit more. Make sure the jaw is relaxed, the eyes closed, if that's okay. And you're allowing the air to come and the air to go on its own pace. And then slowly you'll just, on your next inhale, just bend the knees, bringing the soles of feet to the ground. Maybe wiggling the fingers or toes, the legs just a little bit. And then very slowly, you're just going to use the hands to press into the ground and just lift up here. Coming back towards the seated position. So try if you can to keep the eyes closed. You'll bring the legs back into a cross-legged position or into a seat. Now relax the hands in the lap, keeping the eyes closed and the spine nice and tall. Just reflecting for one moment on your practice, acknowledging the time you made for yourself today. And then bringing both palms to heart center, bringing the thumbs to touch the heart, bowing the head to the hands in honor of your practice. Say namaste. Reflecting and honoring your own practice, as well as me reflecting and honoring your practice as well. So thank you for joining me today, and I hope to see you again sometime soon.